Why the Old Testament feels boring to some Christians? Many Christians find the Old Testament difficult to engage with, often considering it less exciting or relevant than the New Testament. This perception arises from several factors, including its length, complex laws, genealogies, and historical narratives that can seem distant from modern life. However, despite these challenges, the Old Testament holds deep spiritual value, revealing God's character, human nature, and the foundation of redemption through Jesus Christ. 1. Lengthy laws and genealogies. One of the main reasons Christians find the Old Testament boring is the extensive lists of laws and genealogies. Books like Leviticus and Numbers contain detailed regulations that can feel overwhelming, especially when compared to the more direct teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. For instance, Leviticus 11 lists dietary laws, specifying which animals are clean and unclean. These are the regulations concerning animals, birds, every living thing that moves about in the water, and every creature that moves along the ground. Leviticus 11:46 NIV. While these laws had deep significance for ancient Israel, modern Christians, living under the New Covenant, Hebrews 8:13, often struggle to see their relevance, making these sections feel tedious. Similarly, genealogies like the one in 1 Chronicles 1 through 9 can be difficult to read. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah. 1 Chronicles 1 through 3 NIV. While these names trace God's promises through history, the long lists often seem repetitive and unengaging to the average reader. Second, repetitive and harsh laws. Some Old Testament books repeat similar laws and commands, which can make them seem monotonous. For example, much of Deuteronomy reiterates laws given in earlier books. The repetition was important for Israel, but to modern Christians, it may feel unnecessary. Additionally, the strict nature of many laws can seem harsh. For example, anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Exodus 21:17 NIV. To Christians familiar with Jesus' message of grace, these commands may feel excessively severe. However, they reflect God's justice and the need for holiness under the Old Covenant. 3. Lengthy and detailed prophecies. The prophetic books, such as Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, contain long oracles of judgment that can feel difficult to grasp. For example, "Woe to the obstinate children," declares the Lord, "to those who carry out plans that are not mine." Isaiah 31 NIV. The constant warnings of judgment can feel heavy and repetitive. While these prophecies contain deep meaning, they require careful study to appreciate fully. Fourth, violent and harsh stories. Many Old Testament stories depict war, destruction, and judgment, which can make them uncomfortable or unappealing to read. The conquest of Canaan, for instance, involves commands that seem extreme. Completely destroy them, the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, as the Lord your God has commanded you. Deuteronomy 20:17 NIV. These passages can be difficult to reconcile with the loving message of Jesus in the New Testament. However, they reflect God's justice and the unfolding of his plan for redemption. Fifth, lack of clear application for Christians. Much of the Old Testament was written for the Israelites under the Mosaic covenant, and many Christians struggle to see how it applies to their daily lives. Unlike the New Testament, which contains clear instructions for Christian living, e.g., the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5-7, Old Testament laws often feel distant. For example, rules about ceremonial purity seem outdated. Do not wear clothing woven of two kinds of material. Leviticus 19:19 NIV. While these laws had symbolic meaning for Israel, they do not directly apply to Christians today, leading some to skip over them. The value of the Old Testament. Despite these challenges, the Old Testament remains a vital part of the Bible. It reveals God's holiness, the seriousness of sin, and the need for a Savior. The Old Testament also contains powerful wisdom, poetry, and prophecy that point to Jesus. Jesus himself affirmed its importance. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Matthew 5:17, NIV. While some parts may feel tedious, studying the Old Testament deepens our understanding of God's plan and strengthens our faith.